Well, good Wednesday morning, everybody, and it's February 3rd, and it looks like this might be our last nice day for a little bit because it looks like we're going to take a change tomorrow morning early, about 6 a.m., I think is what I saw for the beginning of the blizzard warning for us here in Calhoun County and other parts of Iowa as well, I think. So, and it's going to get cold, so if you, you need any supplies, you better join the thousands heading to the grocery store today, the hundreds at least here in Lake City, perhaps. At any rate, we are jumping into, even though it's Wednesday here in our time, we are starting Thursday morning in the story of Jesus last week. So it is going to be Thursday morning, what we have come to celebrate as Maundy Thursday or Commandment Thursday, sometimes just called Holy Thursday by some. And good morning, Phyllis. Phyllis is here almost exactly when we start today. God bless. But anyway, so this is Thursday in Holy Week, even though it's Wednesday for us. I know we're confused, but we'll be continuing on Thursday tomorrow, so we'll be right for a day or so. Anyway, so what is going on right now today is Jesus is going to send two of the disciples, Peter and John, off to make arrangements for the Passover, for the Last Supper. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow, though. But today, we're getting ready for the Last Supper. So we are going to look at verses 7 to 13 in the 22nd chapter of Luke's Gospel. So verses 7 to 13 in chapter 22. All right. Then came the day of unleavened bread, on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. So Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, "Go and prepare the Passover meal for us, that we may eat it." They asked him, "Where do you want us to make preparations for it?" "Listen," he said to them, "when you have entered the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him into the house he enters, and say to the owner of the house, 'The teacher asks you, where is the guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a large room upstairs, already furnished. Make preparations for us there." So they went and found everything as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover meal. So this is kind of reminiscent of the whole thing with the donkey, the burro, whatever we want to say, and the colt. Jesus seems to have made some advance arrangements, doesn't he? And in fact, he's even managed for a signal so that the disciples could figure out who they were supposed to go see. Rather than giving them an address, he gives them this kind of cryptic thing: look for the man carrying the jar of water. But that would have stood out. That would have been noticeable because in those days, it's my understanding, the women typically carried the water. And not the men. And typically, if men carried fluids, I'm told that they did that in skin flat vessels, like the wine skin kind of a thing, that they used those to carry them rather than stone jars. So, which doesn't make much sense because a stone jar would be heavier. So that's kind of twisted logic, but that's what I'm told, and I'll concede that perhaps is true. But at any rate, it was very strange for a man to be carrying a jar of water through the streets. So here they see this man, and they follow him, and they find the upper room where they gather. Now, when we were in Jerusalem last year in January, we did go to the site where they believe is the location where the Last Supper was. It's not the same building. That building is long gone. This is a relatively new building. It was built by the Crusaders, so it's almost new. Yeah, and they have a different definition of new over there, folks. It's quite different. They even kind of think that the Europeans are cute with their buildings that are a few hundred years old, when we're talking about things that are thousands of years old, like the tombs of Solomon from Solomon's time that we were able to see that are over 3,000 years old. But at any rate, so that there is a building, a structure built on that, and it was a very moving place to be. It was quite an interesting atmosphere in that room, even though it's not the actual room. It's believed to be on the location of it. Anyway, I may talk more about that tomorrow. But here we've got them getting ready to make ready, and of course the room it sounds like the room is all set up for them. I'm not sure how far that preparation that they need to go, what they needed to do, but it's the time when the Passover lamb is sacrificed. Remember, the Passover lamb is sacrificed, and it has to be consumed before the end of the day, and whatever's left, it has to be burned. You can't let it go over to the next day, that kind of thing. But the point I'm going to focus on here today is not so much that. We'll talk more about that perhaps tomorrow as we finish getting into the Last Supper and the institution of the Lord's Supper and all of that. And the changing for us Christians of what Passover was. He's taking Passover and redefining it. But here I want to use more of a life application thing, because here we've got John and Peter being sent in this very cryptic thing, just again like this being sent to go look for the donkey that he's supposed to ride into town, and not really this is strange, a weird thing that they're being sent to do, and not completely understanding it, and that's kind of something that we have to realize happens to us too. When many times when we feel a calling to do something, we have no idea what the final outcome is. They had no idea that, even if they understood that they're going to get the room for the Last Supper, they had no idea of what that was going to become and what was going to grow out of it, and that it would evolve to the point where it is what we do each week here at Woodlawn, where we celebrate the Lord's Supper weekly, because we believe it is so vital, important. This is a very important thing for us here at Woodlawn. We look to that as being the most important part of the worship service, is the communion. So they had no idea, and they just had to have faith and to do what they were called to do, to go and do this and make those preparations, not knowing the end result. And I've mentioned this before in sermons, that we really need to understand that it's not up to us to understand why God wants us to do what he wants us to do. We just have to answer that call and go and do his bidding, and have faith that it will all work out in the end. That's why when we're talking to people about Christianity, they may not come all the way to, they don't come and be baptized the next week. Wow, we'd love that, but it just doesn't happen often. But we are called to plant the seeds and maybe water the seeds that somebody else had planted. And once in a while we're called to harvest. But I think we spend more of our time planting and watering and tending to those young plants, rather than being there for the harvest. Then that is a much longer period. Harvest is a quick period. So, but it's vital that those young plants, those young people that are starting to gain in the faith, that they be tended to. So we just have to have faith. So that's my thoughts for this day on this passage. Like I said, tomorrow we'll probably dive into it a little bit deeper, but we have, even though it's Wednesday, we've made it to Monday, Thursday. So with that, I'm going to let you go. Be careful, get ready, because tomorrow the weather's going to turn, and it's going to get kind of icky. So, but before I do want to go, I don't know if my friend John Foreman watches these devotions, but if he does, I want to make sure I say happy birthday to John, my good buddy Pope. We called him in college. His nickname was Pope. We love John, and he's up in Millbank now as a city engineer. God bless him for that. And maybe next summer, if the world's normal, I'll get up there to see my old buddy John. So with that, happy birthday, John. The rest of you, have a blessed day and be a blessing to someone today. See y'all later. Bye-bye.